The transmission arrived precisely at 14:47 Earth Standard Time on a Tuesday. Sarah Chen was sipping her morning coffee inside Luna Station's command center when every comms unit in the solar system erupted at once. The signal defied every precedent. It used quantum pathways humanity hadn't even identified before. It evaded every firewall Earth's systems had ever constructed. It spoke flawlessly in English, French, Mandarin, Spanish, and 17 additional human languages all at once.
Attention. Species designation. Human.
The voice began, motionless yet disturbingly aware. This is Admiral Kethel, of the hegemony of Zephyria, addressing you on behalf of the Galactic Council. You will pay attention. You will remain silent. Right. You will obey. Sarah's hand went slack. Her coffee cup slipped and shattered against the metal floor. She didn't register the sound all around her. Officers and techs froze in place, eyes glued to their displays. The primary screen showed the unthinkable, a rotating, three-dimensional star map of the Milky Way. Hundreds of systems shimmered in soft blue. A small cluster on the outskirts blinked yellow. The blue systems are governed by the hegemony, the voice explained. We have maintained control over this galaxy for 3 millennia by your calendar. We enforce order. We sustain peace. We shield civilization from entropy. The yellow cluster magnified. Sarah instantly recognized Sol, Alpha Centauri, Wolf 359, and 24 other human-settled systems. A mere speck in the vast stellar ocean. The yellow systems are yours. 23 in total, the voice said. A generous allocation for such an immature race. You are permitted to grow because of your early potential. That permission is conditional. It may be withdrawn. Sarah's fingers trembled. She wasn't new to pressure. She had led expeditions beyond the heliopause, encountered anomalies that warped light and time. She had watched crewmates perish. But this voice, this message reduced her to a child caught red-handed. However, the alien continued, your recent actions have drawn attention. Your vessels stray too far. Your settlements multiply too fast. Your species asks too many questions. This must end. The galactic map, reconfigured, a glowing red outline, enveloped the human-controlled stars, forming a flawless sphere. This is the Kepler boundary, Admiral Kethel declared. No human craft will cross this frontier. No human colony shall be planted beyond its reach. No human exploratory the transmission. Arrived precisely at 14:47 Earth Standard Time on a Tuesday. Sarah Chen was sipping her morning coffee inside Luna Station's command center when every comms unit in the solar system erupted at once. The signal defied every precedent. It used quantum pathways humanity hadn't even identified before. Evaded every firewall Earth's systems had ever constructed. It spoke flawlessly in English, French, Mandarin, Spanish, and 17 additional human languages all at once. Attention, species designation, human, the voice began. It was metallic, emotionless, yet disturbingly aware. This is Admiral Kethel of the hegemony of Zephyria, addressing you on behalf of the Galactic Council. You will pay attention. You will remain silent. You will obey. Sarah's hand went slack. Her coffee cup slipped and shattered against the metal floor. She didn't register the sound. All around her, officers and techs froze in place, eyes glued to their displays. The primary screen showed the unthinkable, a rotating, three-dimensional star map of the Milky Way. Hundreds of systems shimmered in soft blue. A small cluster on the outskirts blinked yellow. The blue systems are governed by the hegemony, the voice explained. We have maintained control over this galaxy for 3 millennia by your calendar. We enforce order. We sustain peace. We shield civilization from entropy. The yellow cluster magnified. Sarah instantly recognized Sol, Alpha Centauri, Wolf 359, and 24 other human-settled systems. A mere speck in the vast stellar ocean. The yellow systems are yours. 23 in total, the voice said. A generous allocation for such an immature race. You are permitted to grow because of your early potential. That permission is conditional. It may be withdrawn. Sarah's fingers trembled. She wasn't new to pressure. She had led expeditions beyond the heliopause, encountered anomalies that warped light and time. She had watched crewmates perish. But this voice, this message, reduced her to a child caught red-handed. However, the alien continued, "Your recent actions have drawn attention. Your vessels stray too far. Your settlements multiply too fast. Your species asks too many questions. This must end." The galactic map reconfigured. A glowing red outline enveloped the human-controlled stars, forming a flawless sphere. "This is the Kepler boundary," Admiral Kethel declared. "We'll cross this frontier. No human colony shall be planted beyond its reach. No human exploratory, the inevitable conclusion, merely one of our smaller patrol vessels. Possesses enough destructive capability to eliminate your homeworld 7 times over. It will remain in your system for the next 37 of your planetary days, as a symbol of our terms." Sarah observed the alien vessel pass Mars. Its sheer scale made the red planet resemble a toy marble. Every human patrol ship that approached it powered down instantly. Their crews offered no resistance, paralyzed by awe, or fear, or both. "You have shown aptitude in spaceflight and interplanetary settlement," the voice continued. "These are commendable milestones for such a fledgling civilization. Do not let arrogance erase all you have accomplished." The transmission began to wane. The final words arrived with chilling clarity. "We have monitored your kind since the moment you left your cradle. We know your wars. We know your evolution. We understand what drives you. You're impulsive, violent, and hazardous to yourselves and others. But there is potential. You can mature. You can improve. You may yet earn your seat in the galactic order. Stay within your designated boundary. Accept our leadership. Endure, and perhaps even flourish under our guardianship. This is not a request. It is not a diplomatic exchange. It is your species' sole opportunity." The voice ceased. The galactic map vanished. The displays across the room faded to black. Silence followed, long and heavy. The only sounds were the quiet hiss of life support and the low thrum of the station's drive core. No one in the command center moved. No one spoke. Eventually, Admiral Lieutenant Torres broke the silence. His words barely more than breath. "What now?" Sarah turned to the observation port. Earth hung beneath them like a marble of blue and green, serene and unaware. 3 billion lives called that planet home. Billions more existed across far-flung colonies. All of them now were trapped, confined to a cosmic cage drawn by a red line. She inhaled deeply. Her voice was calm, but steel threaded through it. "Establish a secure link with Earth's command." "Yes, ma'am. I want President Santos, the Defense Council, and every colonial governor on the line. Use quantum encryption. Security protocols? Understood. What should I say?" Sarah said nothing at first. Her eyes were fixed on the alien vessel, now sliding past Jupiter. It moved with impossible grace for something so massive, like watching a predator drift silently through a garden. It was mesmerizing and horrifying. She finally spoke, her voice low and resolute. "Tell them, it's time to decide who we really are. Moved like a storm front or a meteor falling from heaven. Tell them we have a problem," Sarah said, "and someone just tried to decide where humanity is allowed to go in our own galaxy." She paused, her thoughts spinning, those lifeless planets, that unspoken threat looming over Earth, and 23 human worlds suddenly boxed in by a red invisible wall. "And tell them," she added, "we need to choose what we're going to do about it." The emergency meeting of the Terran Senate ran for 18 straight hours. President Maria Santos watched from her private office as the debate unfolded across 100 screens. Some senators urged obedience. Others called for retaliation. Most were simply afraid. "Negotiation is the answer," insisted Senator Williams of Mars. "There has to be a compromise. If we agree to oversight, maybe they'll allow some controlled expansion." Senator Park from Centauri shook her head sharply. "You saw the Krillians. These aliens don't negotiate. They issue commands. They expect silence and compliance. So what's our alternative?" Williams retorted. "Start a war we can't win? Risk extinction over pride? Santos turned away. She had heard it all: fear versus resistance, safety versus liberty. The same eternal human struggle. Captain Rodriguez stepped in with a data pad. "Ma'am, reports from the outer colonies. The aliens are building something." Santos took the pad. Her blood chilled. "Monitoring platforms." "Yes, ma'am." "Massive constructs. Just outside the Kepler boundary, they appeared overnight.
Oh?
Scans show at least 30 so far." Santos pulled up the tactical readout. Red icons surrounded human space. Each one dwarfed Earth's largest space stations. Each one bristled with advanced weaponry superior to every known Terran system. "It's a cage," she whispered. Rodriguez gave a tight nod. "Admiral Chen is requesting authorization to approach one of the platforms. She wants to gather full telemetry." "Denied," Santos said immediately. "No provocations. Not until we know what we're facing." But even as she said it, she knew provocation wasn't a question of if, but when. Humanity didn't tolerate cages. 3 weeks later, it happened. The science vessel Curiosity was observing a pulsar near the Kepler boundary when a solar flare struck. Their nav systems were disabled. They drifted just 0.3 light-years into the restricted zone while making repairs. Commander Dr. Elizabeth Warren sent a priority signal, an emergency declaration, full explanation, and request for permission to complete repairs before returning. The message was respectful, cautious, sincere. 12 minutes later, a reply came. Then Curiosity vanished. No warning, no detonation, no wreckage, just gone, ripped from existence. 847 scientists, technicians, and officers erased. Admiral Sarah Chen was in her quarters aboard the Indomitable, reviewing deep patrol rotations when the report arrived. The datapad slipped from her fingers. "All hands," she said softly. Her voice triggered the shipwide. "Comes. This is Admiral Chen. As of 13:47 hours today, the research vessel, Curiosity, and all souls aboard were lost, destroyed by alien action while conducting peaceful scientific research." She paused, feeling the crushing weight of command, of consequences. Spiraling out from this moment, the aliens call it justice. They claim Dr. Warren and her team deserve death for crossing an unseen border in empty space. They expect us to accept this, to be thankful they didn't erase more of us. Across the Indomitable, silence spread like wildfire. In engineering, tools were lowered mid-repair. On the bridge, officers turned from their consoles, faces blank. In the mess, conversations fell into hush. "I disagree," Admiral Chen said firmly. "I believe 847 of our people were murdered because someone tried to shackle us. Because we let ourselves be cowed by tyrants with massive warships." She stood from her desk and walked slowly to her cabin's wide viewport. The stars glimmered in all directions, cold, endless, and inviting. Somewhere out there, machines watched them, alien eyes acting as wardens. "We are not prisoners. We are not livestock. We are not pets kept in some benevolent zoo." Her voice was quiet but resolute. "We are human beings, and we go where we choose." The shipwide message ended. But Admiral Chen's words didn't fade. They spread past between crew members, copied, shared. Within days, they reached every outpost, every colony, every human station. The alien monitors detected the broadcasts, but the beings inside didn't grasp what they were hearing. The hegemony had dominated 412 species over 3,000 years. Every conquest followed the same predictable steps: a short burst of resistance, often futile. Then negotiation, pleading for compromise. Finally, submission. The conquered learned to live in chains, quietly, resignedly within borders assigned to them. Admiral Kethel assumed humans would fall in line the same way. His analysts had studied human patterns. They cataloged history, dissected cultural records, evaluated psychology. They knew humans were passionate, irrational, often violent, but also adaptable, strategic, capable of recognizing overwhelming power. They believed given enough pressure, humans would bend. What they didn't account for was what happened next. The first indication that this species was unlike the others: came 2 months after the Curiosity vanished. Human vessels began experiencing a sharp rise in navigation failures. Near the Kepler boundary, emergency situations that required temporary entry into restricted space became oddly frequent. The cargo freighter Atlantic Dream reported engine collapse just beyond the limit. The research vessel Newton developed a critical life support issue and was forced to cross the line for emergency repair assistance. The colony carrier Mayflower claimed pirate activity and requested permission to flee into forbidden space for survival. Each incident, taken alone, was plausible. Space was unforgiving. Mechanical failures happened. But together, the trend looked too neat, too timely. Admiral Kethel reviewed the compiled data inside his command chamber aboard the Fortress Eternal. Dominion, his aide, Subcommander Urix, stood stiffly at his side. Beside the projected star map, the numbers glowed. 17 violations in 60 days, Urix reported. All officially recorded as legitimate emergencies. However, the probability curve suggests an orchestrated pattern. Kethel frowned. "They're probing us," he said. "Studying our reaction times, evaluating our thresholds." "Shall we eliminate the next violator to reaffirm consequences?" Urix asked. Kethel considered. Standard protocol in the hegemony dictated gradual escalation. First warnings, then a show of force, followed by targeted eliminations. The Curiosity's destruction should have sufficed. "Not yet," Kethel replied. "Perhaps they require time to accept their limitations." Still, something gnawed at him. Human behavior wasn't fitting the models. The hegemony had precise expectations for conquered species. By this stage, most would be dispatching emissaries, offering reparations, begging for peace. Humans were doing none of those things. Instead, they were building. Data flows confirmed a 300% surge in human military production since the decree. New orbital defense grids now ringed every major colony. Training drills had become daily, massive. "In scale, sir," Urix said cautiously. "Perhaps we should reassess. The rate of militarization suggests a preparation for conflict, not surrender." "Let them prepare," Kethel answered coldly. "Their most advanced warship carries less firepower than one of our patrol drones. Their entire navy could not breach a single boundary platform." He wasn't wrong. By every metric, human technology was outdated. Crude weaponry, inefficient engines, tactically predictable. In any head-on battle, annihilation would be swift and one-sided. But Kethel, like his predecessors, was making a fatal assumption. He believed that superiority ensured victory. He believed that logic would override rebellion. Believed that humans were like all the others the hegemony had subjugated. Which was wrong. 3 months after the Curiosity vanished, President Maria Santos received an encrypted, direct transmission one that would change everything. "Admiral Kethel." The message appeared on President Santos's private terminal, delivered through the same incomprehensible technology that had carried the initial ultimatum. President Santos, the alien, said, "It was humanity's first clear. Look at its oppressor." He looked nearly human, except for skin that shimmered like liquid silver and eyes that were too dark, too large, too still. "I am Admiral Kethel," he continued. "We have observed troubling developments in your territory." Santos reclined in her chair, expression calm. She had expected this conversation. "Your weapons manufacturing has escalated. Your vessels repeatedly breach our boundary lines. Your leaders speak of liberty and defiance. These behaviors imply a failure to comprehend our original message." His expression never changed, but the tone of his voice grew tight-tinged with annoyance. "We provided a binary choice: submission or elimination. Most civilizations opt for submission within one cycle. You have been given ample time to consider." He leaned toward the feed, silver features stern. "You will cease all military expansion immediately. Dismantle your offensive fleet capacities. Dispatch envoys to formally recognize hegemony sovereignty. You have 30 of your days to comply. That extinction will be assumed." The signal terminated, leaving Santos alone in her office. Beyond the glass, the lights of New Geneva sparkled like constellations across the coast. 5 million lives in that city. Billions more across the colonies, all looking to her. She opened her come line and sent a direct message to Admiral Sarah Chen. The 30-day countdown ticked to 0 at midnight. Earth's Standard Time. Inside the Fortress Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kethel waited, expecting terms of surrender from humanity's leaders. Instead, he received something altogether different. Every major communication array in the galaxy lit up at once. Human voices echoed in dozens of languages, all carrying the same message. Screens from Sol to the Rimworlds displayed a single image. "President Santos, my fellow humans," she began, "and to those beyond who demand our obedience today, we end this discussion. The hegemony of Zephyria has delivered us an ultimatum: obey or die." Kethel leaned forward in disbelief. Where was the peace delegation? Where were the apologies? They assume that because their weapons are vast, they can cage us. That fear will teach us obedience, that we are no different from the other species they have conquered. Santos paused, locking her gaze with the camera. There was no fear in her eyes, only fire. They are wrong. The president rose to her feet, and the camera pulled back, revealing she stood not in a government hall, but on the bridge of a warship. Behind her, the Indomitable pulsed with quiet urgency officers. Coordinating, screens glowing. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We endured ice ages that should have erased us. We survived plagues that cut our numbers in half. We fought wars that shattered our civilizations, and each time, we rose again, stronger. In hegemony monitoring stations across human space, alien observers watched in silence. This was not how broken species responded. "Do you think your weapons frighten us?" She leaned toward the camera. "Created weapons capable of cracking planets before we left our solar system? You call space hostile? We call it home. You think isolation is a punishment? We spent all of history alone until now." Admiral Chen stepped into view beside her. Her uniform was immaculate, her expression unwavering. Behind them, a large display flickered to life fleet formations, glittering across Sol's orbital. "Map. So we reject your ultimatum," Santos declared. "We reject your sovereignty. We reject your right to dictate where humans may go in our galaxy." Alarms triggered across alien stations. Technicians scrambled to report the broadcast. It was unprecedented. No species had ever defied the hegemony so publicly. "In 1 hour," Santos continued, "our fleet will cross the Kepler boundary. We will establish a colony on the world you call Kepler for 4 to be. We will build homes there, raise families there, live free there." Admiral Kethel activated the emergency network. "To all monitoring posts, this is Admiral Kethel. The humans have declared intent to violate restricted space. Prepare for immediate response." But Santos wasn't done. "We know you'll try to stop us. We know your ships are larger, your weapons stronger, your tech more advanced. We know you expect us to fold under pressure." She smiled. It's a kind of smile that unsettled even seasoned warlords. "But you've never dealt with a species that would rather die standing than kneel living. You've never faced humanity." Across the galaxy, the feed went dark. Occupied worlds, conquered species sat frozen. Generations of submission, shattered by one defiant voice. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had said no to the Empire. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen stood silently. Round her, the fleet stirred. 200 ships, ranging from Titan-class battleships to Slender. Colony carriers filled the void above Earth, the greatest human armada ever assembled. Captain Torres, Chen said. "All ships report ready. Course laid in for Kepler 442, he replied. Looking out at the gathered fleet, she felt its steel resolve swelling in her chest. These weren't just warships. They were a message. Soldiers or battle-hardened veterans. They were farmers, scientists, engineers, and teachers. Civilians. Who had chosen to cross a forbidden line because freedom meant more than comfort? "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Chen to the fleet. In 15 minutes, we will cross into restricted space. The enemy will try to stop us. Their ships are larger, their weapons deadlier, their tactics older than our nation. She paused, scanning the faces on her bridge. Most were young idealists, born into freedom who intended to keep it. But logic has never been humanity's strength, she continued. We're the species that saw oceans and crossed them in wooden rafts, that saw mountains and decided to climb, that looked at the sky and decided we should fly. Across the fleet, crews heard her voice as they ran final checks. Weapon capacitors surged with power, shields flared to readiness, navigation plotted. Final vectors. Today we face an empire that's ruled for 3 millennia. And we choose to fight it not because we expect to win, but because some things deserve to be fought for, no matter the odds. Chen eased into her chair, hands resting on the armrests. All ships, she said, engage FTL drives. Destination. Freedom. In a blink, the fleet jumped. Earth's orbit fell silent. Only patrol ships and defense stations remained. In their wake, alien monitors scrambled to calculate trajectories. The journey to Kepler 442 would take 6 hours at full hyperspace. Velocity. Chen spent it combing through tactical updates and quietly recording messages to people she loved, just in case. One was for her daughter, safe on Mars. Admiral, a navigator, called, dropping to sublight in 30 seconds. Stations, Chen said. Battle alert. Shields up. Weapons hot. Let's see what we're walking into. The Indomitable and her fleet dropped into real space on the edge of Kepler 442 immediately. Sensor screens erupted with warnings. 50 alien warships stood between them and the planet. They were magnificent and terrifying. Sleek arcs of silver, alloy, their hulls alive with rippling energy. Each ship the size of a floating city. They waited, unmoving, radiant with threat. Jesus, someone whispered. Chen examined the tactical map. Each enemy ship dwarfed theirs tenfold. One volley might erase a human cruiser, but humanity had stared down worse. Admiral Hercom's officer said, "Incoming message from the alien fleet." Put it through. Admiral Keffel's face appeared silver-skinned expression, icy with command. Human vessels, you are trespassing in hegemony-controlled space.
Hour down.
And prepare to be escorted out. Resistance will result in annihilation. Chen rose slowly and stepped forward. All around her, the crew stood waiting. Across 200 ships, over 200,000 volunteers held their breath. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Commonwealth Fleet," she said, voice even. "We are proceeding to Kepler for 4 to establish a colony. I suggest you clear the path." Keffel's expression didn't flicker. "Admiral Chen, you lead a fleet of primitive craft against the unified force of the hegemony. Surrender now, and your people may return home alive." Ready for the next. "Course and you will all die." Chen gave him the same smile President Santis had worn during her broadcast school, fearless and sharp as a blade. "Admiral Keffel," she said, voice steady, "you don't understand what you're dealing with." "Didn't come to plead. We didn't come to beg. We came to teach you what happens when you try to chain humanity." She turned to her tactical officer without breaking eye contact. "All ships, battle formation. Prioritize the alien flagship." Keffel blinked, the faintest flicker of uncertainty in his expression. "Admiral Chen," he said, with something almost like pity in his tone, "your fleet is outmatched in every conceivable way. This action will lead only to your annihilation." Chen tilted her head slightly. "Maybe," she admitted. "And that's what you never managed. To learn about us, we'd rather die fighting than live obedient under someone else's flag." She sat down slowly, gripping the armrests of her chair like a throne. Her crew waited, tense but unwavering. The same young souls who had braved the stars were now staring down extinction with calm defiance. "Fire," she said quietly. A storm of missiles, lasers, and kinetic projectiles erupted from the human fleet in unison. Bright streaks of raw fury crossed the void, aimed directly at the alien command ship. In comparison to the weapons the hegemony could unleash, it looked primitive, quaint even. But it was more than weapons fire. It was the sound of rebellion made visible. It was the scream of a species that had been pushed one step too far. The response from the alien fleet was swift and overwhelming. Beams of condensed energy sliced through the darkness, each blast powerful enough to rip a destroyer apart in a heartbeat. Explosions flared like miniature suns as the two sides collided. But the human fleet did not falter. It did not break. Adapted ships that lost targeting systems began flying straight into enemy vessels. Crews rerouted power from shattered weapon banks to boost shields for neighboring allies. When life support failed, evac pods shot out like dandelion seeds, and derelict hulls were repurposed as decoys or kinetic weapons. No simulation the aliens had run prepared them for this kind of resistance. It wasn't textbook warfare. It wasn't logical. It was survival. It was humanity. The Indomitable took a direct hit midships that gutted half her systems. Fire tore through corridors. Gravity failed. Consoles sparked and burst across the bridge. But Chen didn't blink. Bridge to all decks. This is the Admiral. Abandon ship. All crew to escape pods. That's an order. Even as chaos engulfed her. Command, she stood firm, watching the enemy flagship grow larger in the forward display. The Indomitable wasn't retreating. She was accelerating. The Battle of Kepler's Edge would later be recorded as one of the most savage encounters in modern galactic history. It lasted 14 relentless hours by the end. Space around Kepler 44 to be resembled a haunted graveyard. Chunks of debris spun in slow, silent arcs. Lifeless hulls drifted among the stars. Automated beacons blinked faintly through clouds of metal. And smoke, where once there had been an armada of 200 ships, only fragments remained. But the silver hegemony fleets, the proud, pristine arm of galactic dominance, was shattered. Their sleek, glowing giants floated in ruins, hulls gutted and drifting, no longer symbols of unstoppable power, but remnants of a myth undone. Admiral Keffel survived, barely. His flagship's bridge was a collapsed wreck of burnt cables, shattered consoles, and failing lights. The air stank of ozone and smoke. Half his crew was dead. The other half were bleeding, burned, were too busy trying to keep the vessel breathing to grieve. Status, he croaked, coughing through the rising heat. From beneath twisted metal, Sub-Commander. Urix dragged herself into view, face streaked with blood, one arm hanging uselessly at her side. "We've lost 37 ships, Admiral," she said, barely above a whisper. "The humans lost 143. Keffel blinked at her. That should have been reassuring. By every strategic standard, it was a clear victory. But something felt wrong. He turned to the tactical display. Red and blue icons floated. In mismatched clusters, 13 hegemony ships still had operational weapons. 57 human ships remained, damaged or barely holding together. Statistically, it was a win. But the humans weren't leaving. "They're not retreating," he murmured, as if voicing it might make it untrue. He zoomed in on one of the crippled Terran battleships limping forward, dragging a ruptured drive trail behind it. Still advancing, still charging weapons, still defying the odds. Urix coughed wetly. "They should be fleeing. They should be dead," Keffel replied, more to himself than anyone. Instead, the humans regrouped. Damaged ships clustered together, shielding the colony transports still heading for Kepler 44 to B. Emergency signal traffic lit up between vessels coordinated. Deliberate. They were preparing for another wave. "They're pushing through," he said, eyes wide with disbelief. "They're actually trying to reach the surface." Urix stared at him, confusion etched in her pain-filled face. "Why?" Keffel watched. As a transport missing half its hull broke formation and crashed into a hegemony cruiser, both ships erupting in flame. Another transport slipped through the chaos and accelerated toward orbit because they'd rather burn than bow, said grimly. No one spoke after that, across the shattered fleet. Surviving alien officers began transmitting distress calls. Medical bays overflowed. Fire suppression systems failed. Discipline eroded as the unthinkable took shape. Humanity had not only stood its ground, they had bloodied the Empire badly, and they weren't finished yet. Observed that it was real. Even after losing most of their fleet, the remaining human, Ships were regrouping for another strike. Their comm channels were alive with chatter as they organized the next offensive. "Sir," the comms officer said, "we're intercepting human transmissions. They're planning to ram our remaining ships." "Ram them?" Rix blinked in disbelief. "It's suicide. They'll lose what's left of their forces." Keithall understood then these humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to make a statement. They would rather die attacking than live under submission. "All ships prepare emergency hyperspace jump," he commanded. "We're pulling out, sir?" she asked, visibly stunned. "We have superior weapons. We can wipe out what's left. At what cost?" Keithall gestured to the tactical screen. "We've already proven they'll sacrifice everything to deal damage. If we remain, we'll bleed more ships. The hegemony cannot afford a one-to-one trade with savages." In a blink, the hegemony vessels vanished into hyperspace, abandoning the battlefield and leaving humanity alone with its victory. A bitter, bleeding kind of victory, but a victory nonetheless. Captain Lisa Torres drifted inside her emergency pod as it carried her away from the wreckage of the doomed Indomitable. Through the viewport, she replayed Admiral Chen's sacrifice on her suit's screen. The final moments when the human flagship collided with the alien command ship blazed across space like the birth of a star. "Captain," a voice crackled over comms, "this is Defiant. We're collecting survivors. Stand by." Torres activated her beacon and waited. All around, other escape pods floated in silence. So many good people lost. So many homes that would never be whole again. But they had achieved something no other race had in 3 millennia. They had forced the mighty hegemony to retreat. 3 days later, President Santos received a top-priority transmission from the acting fleet commander. "Captain Rodriguez of the Defiant," Madame President Rodriguez said, appearing over the secure feed. His face was drawn, uniform scorched by fire. "Mission accomplished. Kepler 4 for 2, B is ours. The colony ships landed while we held them off. 2,000 settlers are already building the first structures." Santos felt a heavy wave of relief. The price had been horrifying, but humanity had proved its message. They would not be shackled. "In casualties?" she asked, though her voice faltered. "We lost 60% of the fleet, ma'am. 43,000 dead. Admiral Chen fell with the alien flagship. But they lost more than planned. They retreated to avoid further losses." Santos gave a slow nod. She would have to face the grieving families and explain why their loved ones died in a far-off system. She'd have to defend the cost of defiance. But first, something new had surfaced. "Captain Rodriguez, we've received strange intel reports. Are you familiar with something called quantum consciousness transfer?" Rodriguez looked. "Asterisk, apparently," Santos said. "Admiral Chen's final transmission carried more than just her last words. Our scientists detected a massive burst of data right before the Indomitable's destruction. The signal was broadcast to every ship. In her fleet, using quantum encryption, she opened a classified file on her screen. That burst contained a full neural map of Admiral Chen's brain. Her thoughts, cumries, personality, everything that made her who she was." Realization widened Rodriguez's eyes. "You mean, she's not really dead?" "Exactly. Our quantum labs on Luna have been working non-stop. They grew a clone body using Chen's DNA and uploaded her mind into it. She woke up this morning, asked for a mission status report. The implications were staggering. If humanity could transfer consciousness at death, then death itself had become meaningless. They could fight without fear, because dying no longer meant being lost." "Ma'am," Rodriguez said slowly, "are you saying all the crew who died in battle?" "Every ship was outfitted with the same quantum consciousness transfer tech. We've been developing it in secret for 5 years. This was the first real-world trial." Rodriguez stared. Captain Santos said gently, "We didn't lose 43,000 people. We lost 43,000 bodies." For the first time since the battle began, Santos smiled. "The crew of the Indomitable will walk again within weeks. Who died ramming alien ships will fly again. Every soldier who fell defending the colony will take up arms again." Then an emergency alert blared. Her aide burst into the room with a datapad. Madame President, you need to see this. The alien. Battle footage, it's gone viral, galaxy-wide. Santos took the device, stunned. The fight was being broadcast across hegemony networks. Civilizations that had never seen defiance were watching humans refuse to bow. More importantly, they were watching humans win. The videos show everything. The aide said breathlessly, Chen's sacrifice, the kamikaze attacks, the aliens retreating. It's spreading faster than the hegemony can suppress it. Across 17 different worlds, subject species viewed the Battle of Kepler's Edge and began asking dangerous questions. If humans could resist, why couldn't they? If a primitive race could force a retreat, what could others achieve? On faction, prime factory workers stopped assembly lines to discuss human defiance. On Oceanic Aquatica, dolphin-like cetaceans convened emergency councils. On Arid Core, hive queens exchanged chemical messages about courage. Admiral Keithall received the reports aboard his wounded flagship as it limped home. Each update confirmed his dread. The humans hadn't just won, they had ignited something, sir. Rick said, we're detecting anomalous communications across the Empire. Subject species are coordinating beyond system borders. It looks like organized resistance. How many systems? 17 so far, and rising. Keithall scanned. The intel. For 3,000 years, they ruled through fear. Resistance had seemed pointless. Humans had shattered that illusion. Recall all patrol fleets to defensive status, he ordered. Elevate security on all subject worlds. Send a priority alert to the Council. What should it say, sir? Keithall stared at the tactical map. Human space small, but now unstoppable. Tell them we face a new kind of enemy. Tell them, humans do not fear death. Temporary, they fought without fear of lost sand by doing so. They inspired others. He hesitated, recalling Admiral Chen's final message about freedom, about choice. Tell them, he said quietly, we may have made a terrible mistake in threatening this species. It's these humans. They are not afraid of us. Worse, his voice dropped. They're teaching others not to be afraid either. Meanwhile, on Kepler 44b, the newly established human colony was alive with effort. 2,000 settlers labored to carve a home from alien soil. They had watched the battle above unfold through telescopes, hacked feeds, emergency broadcasts. They had seen heroes die so they could live. Now they raised shelters, cleared fields, and planted crops in ground soaked in sacrifice. They named the first city Chen City, in memory of the admiral who had died and then returned for their sake. And each night, when they looked skyward, they knew this truth. Somewhere in the stars, the hegemony was learning what it truly meant to face an enemy that would not be cowed, would not be conquered, and would never back down. The war for galactic freedom had begun, and it was humanity that had fired the first shot. On the capital world of Zephyria Prime, the Hegemony Council convened an emergency session aboard the colossal orbital fortress. Eternal Dominion. 12. Counselors, rulers of the galaxy's mightiest empires sat around a circular table of compressed neutronium. Veterans of centuries of dominion, none of them had ever faced a crisis like this. Admiral Keithall stood at attention. His silver uniform still bore the burns from Kepler's Edge. Before each counselor lay his report-40-7 pages documenting an impossible defeat. Explain to us, demanded Counselor Vextel of the crystalline hegemon, her voice like cracking ice, how a species we discovered mere months ago has sparked uprisings in 17 systems. Keithall activated the central holodisplay. The galaxy spun in miniature, blue for systems under control, red for active rebellion, yellow for brewing dissent. The humans broadcast their engagement with us galaxy-wide, he said flatly. Civilizations that obeyed us without question. Watched so-called primitives destroy our ships. They believe resistance is possible. Belief isn't strength, growled Counselor Thresh of the Bone Collective. We crush these rebels. We burn their cities, show them what defiance costs. Yesterday, we bombarded the Aquatica system in retaliation for their uprising. 3 billion Satians were killed. Their underwater cities reduced to radioactive sludge. The council gave solemn nods. This, they believed, was how order was preserved. But Kethel wasn't done. Within hours of the strike, 7 more systems declared independence. The annihilation of Aquatica didn't suppress resistance, it multiplied it. Counselor Seeks of the Geometric Imperium leaned forward, his crystal fractals gleaming. You're implying our standard methods are no longer working. I'm saying the humans have rewritten the rules. Before their defiance, subject species feared us more than they hated us. Now they hate us more than they fear us. Silence fell over the chamber. For 3,000 years, the hegemony had maintained galactic dominion through a simple equation: display overwhelming power, demand obedience, erase rebellion completely. That equation had never failed, till now. Show us these humans, ordered Counselor Velgren. Enough of the Void Syndicate chatter. Kethel adjusted the holodisplay. Footage from the Battle of Kepler's Edge filled the center of the room. The council watched intently human ships slamming into their enemies in suicide runs. Admiral Chen hurling her vessel into the hegemony flagship, survivors rallying for another attack despite the certainty of death. They knew they were going to die, murmured Counselor Yulanara of the Psychic Dominion, her voice echoing with mental resonance. And yet, no fear. Their neurological scans show only resolve and intent to wound at all costs. That's not the most unsettling part, Kethel said. He keyed a new feed. Secret footage from within human territory appeared grainy, but unmistakable. 3 weeks post-battle, Admiral Chen alive again, leading a new fleet. Our intel confirms it. The humans can transfer consciousness at the moment of death. Around the table, unease flickered. Immortal enemies were not part of the galactic playbook. Kethel pressed on, even worse since our ultimatum. Human military production has surged by 800%. And they're not building defensive units. Pause. They're building invasion. Fleets. Invasion fleets, repeated Counselor Thresh, sitting up sharply. Counselor Vextel's crystalline form shimmered with unease. Are you saying they intend to attack us? According to intercepted messages, Kethel replied. The humans are initiating something called Operation Righteous Fury. Their stated goal: the liberation of every subject species in the galaxy. A long, heavy silence followed until it was shattered by the grinding laughter of Counselor Thresh. Let them try. We'll reduce their fleets to slag in their planets, to scorch rubble, and we'll hunt down every last human and erase their species from existence. I don't think you understand, Kethel said softly. He changed the display. A galactic map bloomed into view, tracking rebel fleet mobilizations. Human ships were there, but they were vastly outnumbered by vessels of other origin. The Satians, who survived Aquatica, have joined them. The Krillian remnants long thought extinct have resurfaced. The silicon mines of the Proxima Collective have awakened their hidden war fleets. 17 species are now actively supporting human operations. Counselor Mordock stood so violently that his obsidian chair cracked. This is unacceptable. We'll wipe out every rebellious planet. We'll commit total species extinction, if that's what it takes. We tried that, Kethel reminded him coldly. Every massacre brings more defectors. The humans haven't just shown the galaxy how to fight us. They've convinced it that we should be fought. The council erupted, voices clashing in fury and panic. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for diplomacy. A few, shaken too, the core, suggested pulling back and securing what little order remained. Then cutting through the chaos came. Counselor 6. Silence. The geometric being pulsed with shifting light, its facets whirling through deep computation. Analysis complete. Current rebellion affects 43% of hegemony-controlled systems. If trends continue, total collapse expected within 18 galactic cycles. Recommendation: immediate strategic response, mandatory. What kind of response? Barked Vextel. Extermination protocol? 6 answered without hesitation. Every rebellious system will be sterilized, every aiding species eliminated. We will re-establish control through unrelenting terror. The other counselors stared. It was monstrous but not unprecedented. The hegemony had committed genocide before to maintain power. The cost will be catastrophic, murmured Ulanara. We'd be destroying hundreds of civilizations. Trillions would die. The alternative, Six replied calmly, is the end of the hegemony. These humans have infected the galaxy with dangerous ideas. Freedom, defiance, resistance. That infection must be cauterized before it spreads further. Chamber grew still. No one liked the path laid before them. But the fear in their eyes said enough. The vote was close. 7 in favor of extermination, 5 opposed. What 7 had voted in favor? It was enough. Admiral Keithall, Counselor Thresh declared, you will now implement Extermination Protocol 7 across every rebellious system. Every world that dared defy us will be reduced to molten slag. Every species that aided the humans erased. Keithall bowed formally. It will be done, counselors. But as he exited the chamber, a chill coiled deep in his heart. The hegemony was about to repeat a mistake as old as tyranny itself, responding to rebellion with brutal oppression. The humans had proven that the hegemony could be resisted. Now the hegemony would prove to the galaxy why resistance was necessary. Admiral Sarah Chen stood upon the bridge of her new flagship, the Indomitable II, watching the largest human fleet in history assemble for departure. 2,000 ships filled the void around Earth, but they were just a fraction. Allied forces had arrived in force. Satian bioships from Aquatica drifted like armored leviathans, their living hulls bristling with evolved weaponry. Proxima collective warforms shimmered in geometric patterns that defied physics and strained the eye. Krillian battle cruisers, forged from the shattered remains of their annihilated world, surged forward, flying tombs of vengeance. Admiral, Captain Torres said from the ops station, all fleets report ready. Total force, 8,700 ships, 43 species. Chen gave a firm nod. It was the largest military alliance the galaxy's subjugated races had ever formed. It still wasn't enough to match the full might of the hegemony. That's fine. She thought, we don't have to match them, just outlast them. Open a channel to all ships, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Chen gazed out at the armada, humans and aliens, side by side, not as conquerors or conscripts, but as equals. This is Admiral Sarah Chen to all vessels, she began. 6 months ago, the hegemony tried to cage humanity. They tried to dictate where we could and couldn't go in our galaxy. They threatened us with extinction. She paused, remembered the fire, the flash, of the void of death at Kepler's edge, the pride of taking the alien flagship down with her. We showed them what happens when you threaten humans. Her voice strengthened. Today, we show them what happens when you threaten our friends. Across the fleet, crews listened. All had suffered. All had lost. Now they would fight for freedom. The hegemony believes terror will bring obedience. They plan to burn worlds as examples. They believe genocide will restore their control. Voice turned iron. They're about to learn that. Humans don't fear genocide. We're going to Zephyria Prime. We'll crush their fleets, end their rule, free every enslaved world. The massive fleet began its move toward the edge of the system, preparing for the longest hyperspace jump ever attempted. I won't lie, Chen added. Many of us won't return. The hegemony has ruled for 3,000 years. They have weapons we can't match, ships older than our nations. She smiled. The same fierce smile President Santos once wore. But they've never fought anyone like us. They've never faced an enemy who treats death as temporary.